Everyone, and at this time we will have a prayer led by Councilman Hensley, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Lord, teach us to be generous. Teach us to serve our neighbors as they require, to give of ourselves and not to count the cost, to fight and not to heed the wounds, to toil and not to seek for rest, to labor and not to ask for a reward, except to know that we are applying our best judgment and efforts to the betterment of our community. And tonight we pray for the victims of the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria today, those who were killed, hurt, displaced, whose lives were upended, and for all of the aid workers who are now rushing to help. We pray that that area may know healing, strength, peace, and recovery. And we pray for our neighbors who work to secure and protect our public safety, who put themselves between danger and the rest of us day and night. We are grateful for them and for all that they do to keep us safe. And for all of the unspoken intentions of those assembled here, we say, Amen.
Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. I will now call to order the Monday, February 6, 2023 City Council meeting. Mrs. Donaldson, roll call, please.
Deacon,
Present.
Fitzwater,
Present.
Hensley,
Present.
Kimna,
Here.
Lester,
Here.
Schreiber,
Present.
Spencer,
Here.
Spicer,
Present.
Ward, here, Wiseman.
Present.
This meeting is also available virtually. The link is on the agenda at jeffersoncitymo.gov, and there's also call-in participation available there. Item 3, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda while adding item 7, a Weathered Rock Veterinary Clinic update. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 4, miscellaneous agenda items. I would like to start by recognizing our longtime Director of Public Works and Planning. We have Mr. Sonny Sanders that has been with the city now for 16 years, and most recently as Director of Planning and Protective Services. And we would like to wish you the best in your retirement after 16 years with the city. Would you like to come to the podium, and we'll give you a moment to just recognize you and thank you for your service. So, yes, we have treats to celebrate.
Those are Matt's treats. My treats would be fruit and vegetables. So
That is true.
That-
That is a very good point.
yes, yes.
So we've appreciated having you. I know you've done a lot for the city in your long career here, but if you want a moment to just have the floor, we welcome you.
Well, I'm really not much of a public speaker. I'm actually an introvert, so this is kind of awkward. But you add beer to me, one beer is all it takes, and then I can tell you more than what you'd want to know. So you have to wait till next Thursday, the 17th, for my retirement party for that to happen. But I have been here 16 years. This is the eve of my 16th anniversary. I have been here longer than anywhere else ever. Normally it's been 5 years. 10 years ago I was looking for a job, got offered one, turned it down, got promoted here. Again, 5-6 years ago, same thing. So overall, it's been a very good place to work for. Enjoyed my career here, and it's actually quite sad to leave. Thank you.
Well, we're going to miss you, and I know that you have been a great leader, and it's funny that you touch on the fruits and vegetables, or I mean fruits, whatever, but every time you go downstairs into your office area, you always had some good healthy snacks for everybody, and I will miss seeing that, because I know that it's just a place for people to gather and to talk, and you're always very welcoming in that way. And I know that these last several years, taking on a project like Capitol Avenue, they required a lot of extra work from your department, and keeping all that in line, along with MSP redevelopment and just many, many things. I mean, code enforcement realm and on itself is a lot. So you've taken the lead on many projects and have planted seeds that will continue to bear fruit for the future long after your retirement. And we certainly wish you the best in that.
Thank you. I would like to point out it's my staff that gets all the credit. I was just there.
Well, we appreciate that, and that's a wonderful attitude to have, and we will certainly miss you. I don't know about, I won't mention the other party you started in with, but I will say that you are having a reception here at City Hall, and maybe there will be fruits and vegetables. There won't be beer, but there will be fruits and vegetables. It'll be Wednesday, February 15th from 2 to 4 p.m. here in this room across the hall, I believe. So we certainly welcome staff and visitors to wish you well. And with that, is there any council comments or any other comments to be made?
Appreciate all the work.
Yes, we appreciate you, and good luck in your retirement, and thanks for all that you've done for the city.
Yeah, I just,
So, thank you. And I think there may be a council comment, Councilman Lester.
I just want to say I really appreciate you and your staff with code enforcement. The work you've done in the last few years has been tremendous, and recently helping to get heritage apartments in a livable situation, or going towards livable situation. It's just, I really appreciate it. I think the community appreciates it, and we're really going to miss you.
Thank you.
There are a lot of those things that people may not see or realize, and they're not always the easiest things to have to deal with, whether it's cleaning up a community after a tornado or some of the code enforcement issues that we deal with that you're constantly having to do, and we appreciate you and your staff doing a good job for our city. So any other comments? All right. Well, if you want to come forward, and any of your other people from planning want to come up, and if council wants to come up, and we'll do a farewell, we'll let you remember your last meeting, and then you can dig into the cookies. How's that? Thank you again, and those cookies really are for anyone in the room. We'll share them, and it is Matt's birthday, so happy birthday. That's another miscellaneous agenda item that you would probably want to forget, Matt, but we won't let you forget it. So, all right, item 5, we have no public hearings. Item 6, appointments by the mayor. We have consideration of city administrator's recommendation for the appointment of Mr. Clinton Smith as Director of Planning and Protective Services. Mr. Kroll.
With the retirement of Mr. Sanders, I'd like to recommend Mr. Clinton Smith as Director of Planning and Protective Services. Mr. Smith is here to wave, say hi. We did have 2 committee interviews, and Mr. Smith has a background in planning and is currently a senior planner with the City of Columbia.
Welcome, Mr. Smith, and if you would like, we'd like to welcome you to the podium here this evening, and you could introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Mayor. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to come down, and I appreciate the opportunity for the position. As you stated, I'm currently a senior planner with the City of Columbia, where I've been for about the last 9 years. Altogether, 15 years plus in planning and community development. Both here in Columbia and also in the Chicagoland area. But I'm excited to kind of take on this challenge moving forward, and I can answer any questions. Well, not any questions, but I can answer any questions, hopefully, you might have.
Wonderful. Well, we will open it up, and we will see if council has any questions specifically either for you or for staff or moving forward. So any questions for Mr. Smith at the moment? Councilman Spencer?
Welcome this evening. Glad you can come and be a part of this process. Just a question, do you have any intentions of moving and relocating family here to Jefferson City?
At the current time, I do have 2 young children. They are in middle school and elementary. I think during the speed of this process, it's not something I'd contemplated, I think, initially. I wouldn't rule it out in the long term. You know, things do change, but kind of with the short time frame there, I don't think it's something I quite calculated in doing right up front. But I don't want to rule it out. I think it's something that could be on the table.
Something that maybe possibly for the next school year, or
I-
are we?
I couldn't make any commitments right now, but it's something I could take into consideration.
Okay, I just think it's important that someone who helps develop policy and institute those policies be a part of the community that they're working with. And so I would like to encourage that as much as possible. So, thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Smith? Councilman Spencer?
I would just ask that we take this on or into closed session as for a final approval with that.
Okay. So we do have a placeholder on our agenda for closed session. So we've had a request to go into closed session. Any objections into us doing that, Mr.? Okay. So any other questions for Mr. Smith? All right, and I do appreciate you being here tonight, and I was glad to be, I know there were a couple other council members, Councilman Fitzwater and Kemna and myself, and some staff members that were part of the final selection interview, and appreciate you being here tonight. So with that, we've had Councilman Spencer, it sounds like, is making a motion to go into closed session. Is there a second? Any further comments? Let's see, roll call, please, or do I read the revised statute?
Yeah, you'll need
first?
to read the statute.
Okay. Pursuant to Section 610.021 of the revised statutes of Missouri, the chair will entertain a motion, which we just did, and a second to go into closed session to discuss the following. Item 3, hiring, firing, disciplining, or promotion of particular employees, Section 610.0213. And we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deacon.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Schreiber. Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer. Ward. Wiseman.
Aye.
All right, and we will go into closed session across the hall, so everybody can stay here, and we will be back momentarily then.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're back in open session, and we appreciate everybody's time on that as we are have worked on item A, considering the appointment of Mr. Clinton Smith as Director of Planning and Protective Services. So thank you for allowing us the time to have that discussion. And I am happy to announce and congratulate Mr. Clinton Smith to give you the news that unanimously that council took the vote to hire you as the Director of Planning and Protective Services. So congratulations, and we will look forward to working with you, but wanted to let you know the outcome of that vote and discussion. So yes, so let us all be the first to congratulate you to your new position, and we will get to look forward to getting to know you. So, all right, thank you and congratulations. All right. Thank you. Glad to have you on board. Yes, exactly. Help yourself there. Yes, Councilman Spencer.
I'm sure he's free to be released. So, I mean, there's really no reason for him to have to stay if he didn't want to. So, I mean,
Yes.
okay.
Perfect. All
Please
right.
do.
That's right. That's
Just
right.
no milk. I'm sorry.
Right, exactly. Well, we're very happy to have you on board, and congratulations again. So thank you. Item 7, presentations from staff, consultants, and invited guests. We have a financial update. Mrs. Perry.
Yes, Madam Mayor. The first 3 pages of the documents in your packet are the revenue model report for fiscal year 2023. Basically, there have been minimal collections for this time frame because for the most part, many of the November and December receipts get moved back to the old fiscal year. So this has a minimal amount, but that is what you'll be seeing moving forward as we progress through the fiscal year 2023. The next 3 pages are the revenue model report, same report, but for fiscal year 22. We're still finalizing audit items, but right now, the way we stand, revenues came in at $1,540,472 over the projected budget. As you proceed back through, the standard report that you'll see next is the sales tax report. And this actually lists all 4 pieces of the sales tax: the general fund, capital improvement, parks, and public safety tax. As you can see, there's only 1 month of collections here that I've reported. All of the sales tax receipts have come in over the projected budget for each of these timeframes. Again, because one time frame here, 1 month of reporting, because the others are moved back to the prior fiscal year.
Sheila,
Yes.
may I ask a question, please? On sales tax receipts, everyone will remember that the council took a slightly different approach to estimates for this current fiscal year
Correct.
than for the prior fiscal year and for years and for other years prior. Have we reached? It looks like on here that we have maybe now we will have reached perhaps the first month that would be affected by those revised.
Correct. What you are seeing here are the first receipts that will be reported in fiscal year FY23. And the budget projections that I have there are based on the increased revenue adoption that was done during budget season. So the general fund is adopted at a higher rate than it has been historically at the 13,500,000. And then I think the other one that feeds into is both capital improvements and also the public safety tax. We increased the projected receipts on both of those so that they were more accurately depicting what receipts had been in prior years.
So these positive variances are even on top of
Correct.
that. Okay, thank you very much.
Again, only 1 month of reporting, but positive at this point.
Thank you.
And then the last page in the packet is probably the next one that you guys would like to reference. This is the estimated fund balance as of the end of FY23, keeping in mind we have not finalized the audit for FY22. So the FY22 unassigned fund balance at this point is $8.1 million. That's based on where we stand today, still trying to finalize the audit for FY22. In the lower portion of the report, you'll see the items that were reappropriated from FY22 to 23. And as you can see at the bottom of the page, the estimated FY23 fund balance as a percent of adopted budget is 15.65%. That is a higher number than we had previously talked about during any of the budget meetings. But again, this is based on how we are hopefully finishing out the FY22 year and taking those items into account to come up with the estimated projections for 23. I think previously the 23 number was at 12.65% maybe. So this is a couple percentage points higher than that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mrs. Perry? Councilman Fitzwater?
I know, looking at that, we had set aside some dollars for the demolitions, and we've taken that down about 125,000. Is that prior to the most recent ones? I think there were.
Anything that was adopted during the FY23 budget is reflected in these numbers, and anything that had been appropriated prior to that has been reappropriated if it was unspent.
Correct. I didn't ask my question very well. We had 575,000 there. It's down to 451,000, which means we paid for some.
Yes.
We've had two that have come down recently. I think they're working on a third one. Have those been paid already, or is those yet to come out of this fund?
So the number that you're looking at, the 451, was what was unspent at the end of FY22, and we reappropriated to 23. I do believe that we have made other expenditures in that
So we'll
account
see that
since.
number go down a little bit in the
It
next.
will actually stay the same number that's listed on this report, but this is reflecting what they had going into, what we reappropriated from 22 to 23 that would essentially affect the ending fund balance.
How can we go about tracking that to see if stay within our budget?
When that appropriation was done, there is a separate general ledger account that goes into that we put the budget in, and any expenses that are outgoing, any expenditures come out of that specific account. So I'd be happy to provide that number at any
So we
point
just
in
need to
time.
ask you?
Yes, any
Okay.
point in time I can provide that.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, thank you for that report, Mrs. Perry.
Yes.
Item B, parking app update, Mr. Marash.
Thank you. And I tried to just include a very simple slide here, something to talk off of, but in the last couple weeks, we've gotten our parking app up and going. It's not everywhere we'd like it to be yet, but basically we've focused on the Capitol Complex area, and that includes Capitol Street, Broadway, kind of around the Truman Building on our meters. So if you see this tag on this picture, that's on one of our meters up on Capitol, and that would indicate the zone you need to use so you can use the parking app there. And just to briefly say how you go about this is the name of our app is Passport, so you would download that on your device. And what you would need to get that going is your license plate number you want to use for your vehicles, and you can use more than one, and then your payment info, so that's credit card basically. Then you can start using the app essentially immediately after that once you get that information in there. And to do that, you basically go in, because you can have multiple vehicles, so it'll ask you which vehicle, even if you only have one in there like I do. It'll say, so you hit that button, You go to the next one. Whoops. I think you can have multiple payments in there. I just have one, but you select the payment method you want, which card you want to use, if you will, and then enter this zone number, and it'll pop up and say, you know, what that zone costs per hour, and that you can set where you want to be, and it's really that simple, very simple to use. It'll also give you, when you're about to expire, it should give you a little note on your phone that says, hey, you're about to expire, do you want to extend? If you're in like a all-day metered zone, like on Capitol Avenue. If you're in a zone where you've already been and you've exceeded your time limit, it won't let you continue. And then, so just tonight, for example, before I come up here, I was looking at it and I selected something. Well, it's past the time when we collect fees. It won't let you, it'll say, you know, invalid. It won't let you put money into the app because we're not charging at this time after hours. So that's kind of how it works. Be happy to answer any questions about it. We're hopeful to, like I said, we got that Capitol Complex area kind of worked. We've got some more meters along McCarty Street, Adams, some of these outlying areas yet to tag. As long as the weather cooperates, we hope to get those on there soon. And then every meter that we have would be available with this app. It has a specific zone for it.
Thank you, Mr. Marash. And I was asked today if our meters have to be retrofitted, and clearly they don't. It's a simple app, so there's nothing changed to the parking meter other than affixing the sticker, and that you download the app. I know I had also asked you about why there wasn't a QR code that people could simply scan, and that, as you noted, a QR code could direct people to other false areas. So by having you download the app, that makes sure that you are directed to the correct place, and it's super easy and simple to do. So thank you for that tutorial. Councilman Fitzwater and then Hensley.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment. Thank you very much. I know we've been talking about this for a while. Surprised to no one, parking continues to be a discussion point, especially with the legislature back in session. There's a lot of discussion. I know the mayor testified on a very onerous bill last week, I guess it was. There's another one out there. I think what we're trying to do is show that we understand there's a problem. We're trying to address it. I think I mentioned to you at the meeting today that I do an unscientific look, but when I walk from my office in the 200 block of Capitol to the Capitol, I typically see anywhere from 8 to 15 street parking spots, which means we've chased the people that were tying up spots that, you know, technically were for people coming to the Capitol. So again, it's unscientific, but I think it's doing what we had hoped, that it's opening up spots for people that are coming into the Capitol, and I appreciate the work that's been done on it.
Thank you. Councilman Hensley?
Thank you. And if you already addressed this, I apologize. But can people still use change?
Yes. So we didn't change the meters. You know, you go to some places and there might be an electronic meter which has to then talk to the credit card companies and all kinds of stuff. This is, you know, the newer technology. You just go with your phone like everything else we do. You don't have to change these out, but yes, you can still use coins.
Great.
And we see people already using the app. We can look in the background and say, okay, yeah, people are using that. But we're as we go, we're a little hesitant to put out a lot of media about it just yet because it's not everywhere. It's stuck. You know, you don't get that sticker everywhere. Cold weather, it's hard to get this thing to stay there, or wet weather, of course. So hopefully this week we got some good weather. It looks like coming up. We'll get everything done, and then we'll start promoting it more widely. We also have some signs we can put up. Haven't got to that point yet, but we'll start, you know, adding to this and promoting it a lot, and just things like this help.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, glad to see that now in use. And now you'll give us an update on the temporary bus route adjustments.
Yes, thank you. I'd sent the council a note about this last week, and it's something that come up pretty rapidly just due to a staffing issue, but we did have to modify our bus routes rather quickly. Just had somebody come in and tender their resignation immediately. And then we knew we had a person going out on medical leave for some extended time. So our driver, we ended up basically with driver shortage. 25% of our drivers are no longer employed here. So, well, one of them is on medical leave, but and so that throws us into a bind. Our buses run at basically a 12-hour day, so we're trying to do that with one shift of people. And so we went from 20 to 15 drivers. available. They have to cover everything those long days. They typically would take a extended break, a split shift, if you will. And so we run out of folks. You know, they have to start working mandatory overtime to keep that up, things like that. But covering all of our routes with our current driving staff wasn't going to be possible. So we went to this. We started announcing it last Wednesday. We've done everything from the drivers just telling folks as they get on last week that this is going to change. Next week, we handed out some flyers. We did press release, social media, Facebook. Our app that tracks buses has been modified, so you now see the buses and where they're the same routes. They just, one bus does 2 routes. So the headways we had were 40 minutes. Now they're 80-minute headways, so they're running 2 routes each bus. And but we got some good coverage on it. I know over the weekend with newspaper, radio, TV had it on. I believe the KRCG folks put it on. So we tried to notify everybody very quickly. It's not unlike other communities around Missouri and elsewhere, but we've talked to our counterparts, and this is, we felt, one of the least impactful ways to go about this. We're still serving the same areas. If this is your only mode to get about, you can still catch that bus. It's just going to take some time. What we didn't affect was our paratransit system, the handy wheels. We felt like that system we could keep intact if we did this with our fixed routes. Now, some folks that use both systems, and so it may drive more business towards the paratransit. We'll have to deal with that, so there might be a little bit of wait time that you wouldn't normally experience. But again, just started today, but we want to get the word out, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about it if there are.
Thank you, Mr. Morash. Any questions? Councilman Fitzwater?
Well, I just had a question. I don't know if there's anything we can do about it, but our new fare increases just went into effect
Today.
also, correct?
Yeah, today was the effective date.
Just seems like with us cutting back service, and maybe it's too late to adjust that, but if we had a conversation about delaying those for a while until we kind of get through this hurdle. I mean, we're giving less service. I mean, I realize the people that are on the bus are getting the same exact service, but it's just fascinating to raise our rates, which we went through a discussion that we needed to do that. But is now the time to do it, or do we just let it go? I don't know if anybody's called in and asked about.
We just, myself and our division director, our interim director, Mr. Stegman, talked about it a little bit, but it's kind of one of the problems is the funding to pay the drivers to be there. So it's kind of a chicken and egg almost, the way I looked at it. I said, well, it's already been through the council. It was set for an effective date today, and we just moved forward because we had changed a bunch of things in our system and started handing out the notices like that. So,
Mr. Kroll?
And I would just say, we do have ads out. We're still willing, wanting to hire bus drivers. And
and there's usually a training period. So hopefully this is a temporary situation. We get some more drivers in, but just looking at other positions, they've been vacant for a while. We don't get a lot of applicants, and, we're competing against other business. And I noticed just generally other businesses I utilize are short on staff. They're delaying hours and things. It's just unfortunate for the whole community, really.
I also think it's something that the city of Columbia may have done as well.
Columbia did something, they're in the process of something similar. Joplin has done it. Springfield, they just upped all their driver rates. They're a union shop, but they think they're going to keep their folks. I know St. Louis has done something similar. Everybody's got to look at this if you're short-staffed of how you try to keep services going with less folks.
And I'm comfortable with that. I just felt like we need to lay it on the table and at least talk about it. I get the reason for it. I mean, we spent a lot of time, and we laid out, I think, a very good case why we needed to do it, but just trying to make sure we thought through all of it, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? And we appreciate the update. Councilman Spencer.
Due to that, we're open with positions for bus drivers. So where there's some vacancy savings going on, since we're not a full staff, I would entertain maybe something to talk about in the very near future to maybe to increase our staff that is staying here, they're committed, they're staying and working harder, and so you know, maybe that's the formula we need to start looking at, is if we're gonna have less workers, we can pay you more. So the same amount of work, you know, has to get done. So thank you. They do a great job, and they're undervalued, and I really appreciate what they do for our community. So
Appreciate the comment, and I'll pass it along.
Okay, thank you for the update. And now we have some visitors here from Weathered Rock Veterinary Clinic that would like to speak to us this evening about bite training. Welcome. Hi there.
I'm Dr. Ashley French from Weathered Rock Vet Clinic. I'm here with Dr. Emily Roosh and Dr. Jessica Green and our senior staff, Morgan Dunsday and Robin Smith. And we have a consensus letter that we were hoping to give a couple of copies out. I don't have copies for everybody, I'm sorry. This is my first meeting.
We can get some, our city clerk can make sure it gets distributed.
Great.
And then we do record the meeting, so if you speak into the mic, that way those that are tuning in online will be able to hear as well.
Excellent, thank you for that tip.
Sure.
So I'm here because I've become aware of a group in Jefferson City that is training dogs to bite people. The dog training group is called the Smoking Guns Working Dog Club, and it teaches dogs to bite people as well as teaching obedience, agility, and offering good canine citizen certifications. These images come from their public Facebook pages and their website as well. They routinely use Jefferson City Parks as their training location, and there are no restrictions on who can do the training or who can attend. Most of the trainings are scheduled on Saturdays from 8 to 10, and most of them are held at North Jefferson Recreation Area or at Riverside Park. This one that's on the screen is from North Jefferson. Both parks have nearby ball fields and playgrounds for children. Dog bites are not unusual in Jefferson City. The Jefferson City Animal Control has recorded 22 bites in 2022, and that averages about 2 a month. And per ABC 17 News, May 12th of 2022 on Mesa Avenue in Jeff City, a resident was attacked by pit bulls. He was opening his garage door when 3 loose dogs ran inside and attacked him. He beat the dogs with a hammer to escape, and his leg was severely damaged, and he broke several fingers. He went for treatment at University Hospital and had surgery for 4 hours to repair his leg. The dogs were not identified and have not been found. On December 13th, 2022, a Jefferson City police officer was arresting a suspect for narcotics possession, and the suspect told her 2 dogs to attack. The officer was bitten multiple times on the legs and arms. The officer shot the dog through the jaw and waited for backup to arrest the subject. Animal Control still has these 2 dogs in holding at the shelter, awaiting on a court date. The injured dog has since healed. So a few quick facts about dog bites from the American Veterinary Medical Association. Nationally, 4.5 million dog bites are reported a year. More than 800,000 require medical attention, that's a CDC statistic. And children under 12 are the most common victims. About half of all victims are children. Children and the elderly are much more likely to be seriously injured or killed. The Task Force on Canine Aggression and Human-Canine Interactions from the AVMA, called A Community Approach to Dog Bite Prevention, states, dog bites are a serious public health problem that inflicts considerable physical and emotional damage on victims and incurs immeasurable hidden costs to communities. Bites have been tolerated as a job-related hazard for utility and postal workers, but for many communities, the problem may be more encompassing. Reducing the incidence of dog bites requires the cooperation of many groups, including animal control agencies, the human and veterinary medical communities and educators, and the departments of health and a local government authority. Individuals, agencies, and organizations that come into contact with or are aware of dangerous dog or risky situations should provide this information. A well-resourced animal control agency is vital for public health and safety within any community. A note of caution. The terms animal behaviorist or animal psychologist are often used by individuals who do not have strong scientific backgrounds but who want to work with problem dogs. There is no method to evaluate the competence of these individuals, and they may be more harmful than helpful to a community's efforts. Dog trainers are a diverse group of individuals with no uniformly recognized credentialing body or measures of competence. Although there are many good dog trainers, there are also trainers that use inappropriate methods of behavioral modification that can negatively affect a dog's behavior, making the dog more dangerous to the owner and to the community. If you'll look in some of these images, you'll see a training baton that's meant to simulate being hit, and you'll also see them simulating hitting the dogs as well. Dog bite injuries have negative repercussions for dogs as well as people, and the Humane Society, animal shelter, rescue groups, personnel must deal with these issues. Dogs causing severe injuries may be brought to humane facilities for rabies quarantine or euthanasia. Children's natural behaviors, including running, yelling, grabbing, hitting, quick and darting movements, and maintaining eye contact, put them at risk for dog bite injuries. Proximity of a child's face to the dog also increases the likelihood that facial injuries will occur. My concerns are that the Smoking Guns Working Dog Club is teaching biting to dogs in city limits and in city parks, putting the public and the dogs at risk. My initial concerns were sent to J.C. Parks, J.C. Police, the animal shelter, area veterinarians, and the Associate Jefferson City Attorney Dustin Birch on November 3rd, 2022. J.C. Police were sympathetic and did 2 drive-by inspections of the training. However, they said there was nothing illegal and therefore nothing they could do. Dustin said that they thought they had stopped using the parks for training as they did not have a permit. This was not the case, as there have been many training sessions in the city parks since. A cease and desist letter was sent at the end of January when the November request for a parks permit failed to result in stopping the training. After the cease and desist order, they have continued training at the county fairgrounds in Versailles on February 4th, and these dogs are let off leash during training and have no identifying labeling that they are trained to bite. The Anti-Cruelty Society has resources for decreasing bites by recognizing and lowering dogs' anxiety and aggressive behaviors. I am concerned that bite training is a canine welfare concern, not only due to the possibility that if a dog bites, he's often euthanized or surrendered to a shelter, but that this time of training increases aggressiveness and anxiety in dogs. Per the Anti-Cruelty Bite prevention, education, and responsible pet ownership are keys to preventing animal bites. To reduce the chance of you or your child being bitten by an animal, make sure you know the basics of canine body language and how to behave appropriately around animals. Understanding canine body language and recognizing when a dog is feeling uncomfortable, fearful, or threatened, or aggressive is critical in preventing animal bites. Do not approach an animal that is showing any of these signs. Even the slightest bit of aggression, fear, or anxiety can cause an animal to bite. Be mindful that a wagging tail or a crouching body does not always mean friendliness. In closing, my peers, Dr. Green and Dr. Roosh, and I are requesting your help in stopping dog bite training in Jefferson City. We're not sure of the best course of action, but we appreciate your help and we look forward to working with you. There are a couple of videos that are taken off their Facebook page, which I wanted to show you as well. Please forgive my terrible filming technology prowess. I didn't know how to download them, so this was my next best option. I don't know if you can see, but those are ball fields in the background, and there's a set of bleachers there. This one's in a park pavilion. This dog also lives with a child, a 3-year-old. One of the things that alarms me about this video is it is off-leash. And this is a simulation of, encouraging the dog to react with having a baton. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, for all three of you for being here tonight and sharing this. And likely, as we move forward, we probably need to consult with our city attorney, Mr. Molman, our police chief, Chief Wilde, and then also with our parks director, Mr. Spalding, all of which are here tonight. So, Mr. Molman, I know not having a chance to move forward with what we would need to do, or what if there's action necessary, or if we already have ordinances in place to prevent this?
So, Dr. French was correct. We did send a cease and desist letter, I believe last week, telling them to stop using city parks for this activity. They have been effectively trespassed from city parks, and if they come back to city park and do this there, we would ask the police to go out and arrest them for trespass. From what we can tell, they've updated some of their website language to no longer advertise classes in Jefferson City. This certainly doesn't take care of anything that's happening in Versailles, but they certainly, we've expressed that they are not welcome in Jefferson City parks to conduct this type of business. And so from here, I'm not sure where we would go, but we've expressed our desire to not have this happen at city parks, and so if there's anything that needs to happen in the future, we address it.
Is this process currently banned within the city limits?
This type of trading specifically, no, not specifically. We'd have to do a deeper dive into our ordinance to see if there's anything that would prohibit it. The problem is that these are voluntary bites. Generally, our city code addresses bites that happened when they are not provoked and kind of outside the regular course of how things happen. There is a large piece of animal legislation a few years ago, and kind of wrapped up in some agricultural terms that I would have to take a look at to see if this is something that we could ban. That would be my primary concern. First place I would start is state law, but if that's something that the city council would like us to go further research into, we'd be happy to do that. For now, we think we have the problem addressed at the moment. We don't have any further plans on doing anything until the group returns, and hopefully they won't.
And to clarify also that there's a sweatshirt in the video that someone wears that says police canine unit, and clearly it's not. I guess anyone can make a sweatshirt with whatever they want it to say, but to be somewhat impersonating a police officer as well.
Yeah, I don't think that would rise to a level of that being any type of offense.
Mr. Kroll?
With the trespass designation, that does give the police some authority to be able to respond and enforce some
Yes.
of that particular problem.
Yes.
Councilman Spencer?
Don't we have signage at our parks that say leash required for all dogs and?
Certainly. Yes.
And, okay, so there's already some enforcement tool there that they, and obviously there is some video there that shows that they are being held on a leash to conduct that training and activity, but I sympathize with the concern here, especially from a mother that I well know that frequents park visits, and having a little boy 3 years old, it would be terrifying to see and witness something like that. So, you know, I would entertain anything that we can do within the Public Safety Committee realm to look at that, to give you more tools to address some of these issues. But it sounds like that you made the statement that you think you already have that in place for enforcement.
For this particular group, in this particular instance, I think we are in a good place. If we have some trouble in the future, we have maybe some additional steps. But if the council would like the law department working with police department and animal control to be even more proactive, we serve at the council's pleasure.
I would just hate to be reactive after an incident due to a child injury. And just for clarification, this is a business or a club, a voluntary club?
They pay membership dues.
They pay.
So they do earn money from the training.
So would that require a business license to?
That was actually the first communication that we sent to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
Whole
you.
host of problems there.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for your time, ladies,
Thank
and
you.
presentation.
Okay. Thank you all. All right, so with that, we will move on to item 8, announcements by mayor, council, and staff. Our committee meetings are listed at jeffersoncitymmo.gov, and we'll run through starting with administration.
Nothing to report right now.
Okay, and finance?
Yep, our next meeting will be on Thursday, February 23rd at 7:30 a.m. Across the hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Public safety?
Public Safety will meet on Thursday, February 23rd, 7:30 a.m. in the police training room.
Is that the same day as finance? Is that correct? Typically, they don't overlap. Let's take a quick look at our calendars and make sure, are they both? So February just has, let's see, February 23rd. So do we need to look at shifting one of those meetings?
I'm looking at our calendar here on internally, and the 23rd I see Finance Committee across the hall, and then at 7:30, and then a 1:30 meeting that's totally unrelated. I'm not seeing public safety on here, but maybe it's just not on the calendar.
Yeah, they're usually added once the agenda gets posted. Like if I don't have a full calendar, but usually the months have 5 Mondays and there's not a conflict, Thursdays. So probably one of them's gonna need to move.
Since we have members that serve on both, we may want to, should we shift public safety? I don't know what that would do with staff.
Does public safety tend to meet most months, like actually get together to meet?
We try to.
Okay, maybe we can shift finance, because oftentimes we're able to not have a monthly meeting. So if public safety would like to keep that, if we have pressing unavoidable committee business for finance, we can figure out an alternate time and date for that if we need to.
Okay.
So I'll revise my announcement and say it's not clear at this time when the next finance committee meeting will be.
Okay. And public safety will remain on the 23rd at 7:30. Thank you. Public Works.
We will meet on this Thursday, 7:30. Sorry, we've got a full agenda, so February
Okay.
the 9th.
February 9th, all right. And I'll go over my announcements, and wanted to thank Sheila for giving us the financial update, and that's almost like a mini finance committee little package put there for that, so thank you for giving us that. And I also know that staff is working on how to fund the initial Evergreen recommendations, so wanted to mention and announce that as well. A few other announcements. We have an upcoming CPR training, and that will be a week from tonight, next Monday, February 13th at 4 p.m. in the PD classroom. And I'd turn it over to Chief Schofield to give us a little rundown on that.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As you stated, we'll be conducting about an hour and a half, a combination of basic first aid, basic life support, CPR, and AED training. So we would welcome all elected officials and city staff to join us. We have plenty of opportunities and openings in that class right now. It'll be not only our instructors, but also some instructors from Cole County EMS are partnering up with us to deliver that training. So look forward to seeing everybody there. About 90 minutes, yep, hour and a half.
So, and that starts at 4 p.m. on next Monday, February 13th. At 4 in the PD classroom, and that is open not just to city council members, but like you mentioned, staff, city staff. We want people to come and have that training, and thank you for opening up that opportunity. You may remember back in December when we had a firefighter, Joel Swader, who came with his mother, Hiroko Swader, who had demonstrated some CPR skills in saving the life of someone that out of that discussion came the topic that perhaps we could also have a training for city staff and council members that we would be able to do that. Also, of course, February being Heart Month, and there's other things that we can tie in with that as well. Being in the PD classroom, I'm hoping it's something that we could record, so if staff is unable to come, maybe they could tune in as well. So we'll hopefully be able to record that. Any questions on that item? So hopefully everybody can join. And let's see, lastly, there's an upcoming fundraiser for Special Olympics it's called Tip a Cop. It's Wednesday, February 15th, 3 to 10 p.m. at Texas Roadhouse. So we have JCPD and Department of Corrections that is going to be raising money for Special Olympics, Adam Kessner and Adam Lukanoff. So they're always so good to give back to good organizations. So hopefully we can support their Tip a Cop on the 15th. Any other council announcements or staff announcements? All right. Yes, Councilman
Actually,
Kemna.
I don't have the ticket in front of me, but I was going to ask Councilmember Spicer if you wanted to announce this Thursday. Yes.
That's right, Convention and Visitors Bureau. Thank you for remembering that. And it looks
he's got
like you have
tickets.
tickets. So everybody see Councilman Spicer after the meeting, and that is this Thursday, the 9th at Eagles. Okay, so we would welcome people to that. Thank you. Also, after you go to CPR on Monday, the 13th, there's an event it's called Uncorked Wine Tasting Event for the Arts Foundation, Cultural Arts Foundation that night. So they have an event on Facebook, but it's called Uncorked at Revelle, I believe, 102 East High Street. So a couple of upcoming fundraisers. Any other announcements? And item 9, Lincoln University student representative update. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Turgeon. Good evening, councilmen, and good evening, guests. Lincoln University would like to invite everyone to Founders Day Convocation this Thursday, February 9th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Founders Day celebrates Lincoln University's years of education service. Convocation will take place at Mitchell Auditorium, Richardson Fine Arts Center. Lincoln University will be closed on Friday, February 10th in observance of Lincoln's birthday. And lastly, if anyone is interested in arts and crafts, the LU MRRL lecture series invites you to attend Kirigami Crafts, from folding and cutting paper to smart materials and soft robotics, and this will be on Thursday, February 16th at 6:30 p.m. at the Missouri River Regional Library. Thank you, and that concludes the announcements for Lincoln University.
Thank you, Ms. Aylesworth. We appreciate your update. And item 10, presentations from the gallery on specific bills or resolutions. We have signed up Mr. Randy Halsey, who indicated he may or may not want to speak. I think he might have left for that. But we also have Patsy Johnson. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Turgeon,
Good evening.
council persons, and guests. My name is Patsy Johnson. I live at 908 Lafayette Street here in Jefferson City. Our property borders, we live on the corner of Lafayette and Rowland Street. I'm here concerning the Zeal Enterprise, looking at extending their, looking at wanting to change from 6 lots to 10 and anticipating building in the area. It's, to us, it looks like a small area because it's a big hill. It has a lot of brick and all kind of stuff along the hillside. As property owners in that area, you know, I've spoken to a lot of my neighbors, and we're concerned because we have not received notice of any kind. We saw flags come up on Friday, so it has been a shock to us that something is brewing or coming in our neighborhood that we're not aware of. We have reached out and gotten some information and finding that they're looking at extending these lots or whatever, but we don't know what type of housing. We don't know single housing. We don't know if it's going to be townhouses. We don't know exactly what's happening. And when they start to tear up and build into these, into the property and blow up the hillside, we don't know if it's going to put cracks in our foundation. As property owners, we're concerned about that. We're concerned about the traffic. We border the university, JC, and Thorpe Gordon. So we have a lot of traffic in that area. Not only foot traffic, we have a lot of car traffic. So we already, Lafayette is a busy, heavy traffic area, and even Jackson Street, as well as Rowland during heavy traffic time. But other than that, Rowland Street is our quiet, you know, place where we don't have police calls, you know, and so it's just difficult for us to think about someone coming in and doing things that we are not even aware of, and we don't even get to have notice nor any input in what's going on. We understand it's somebody else's property, but at the same time, we should have some kind of notice, and we ought to be able to address questions about what's happening in our neighborhood. Just like we have individual lots, but we're responsible to each other as neighbors, and we're respectful of that. So this has just really come on us, and we want to be able to have an opportunity to question, to bring up questions. And we want to know what type of housing. Is it going to be rental? Is it, you know, or is it going to be for, or, you know, what type of, houses are going to be built on there, if it's going to be houses. So there are a lot of things that we want to be able to address with someone, be it go back and review with planning and zoning, because we didn't have an opportunity to address there. So I'm not only speaking for myself, I'm speaking for a lot of my neighbors that haven't had an opportunity to attend because of such short notice.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson, and we will have, when we take up the first reading of the bill, I'm sure Mr. Barron will take note of a few of those questions and make sure and answer. Councilman Hensley?
Thank you. May I ask Mrs. Johnson a question?
Sure.
Thank you. Good evening. Have you experienced or have you heard of your neighbors experiencing problems with their foundations after explosive use related to construction in your neighborhood?
Absolutely, I have.
Okay. Is that,
Well, he could speak to that because he's had some trouble. But, go ahead.
Maybe not the arc, but the link. We're all on the same bedrock. We all share the same bedrock.
Do you want me to?
Okay.
So, thank you for taking time today. My name is Michael Hall. I am, I guess, the sole resident on Marshall Street, which is what the proposed area is. As far as that, of course, I've got my wonderful neighbors. We try to communicate when things happen. It's a courtesy you have for your neighbors when you live in a neighborhood for 15, 20 years, as we all have. Again, as she said, quiet neighborhood. But in the past, we have had, when the link was built, we all share the same bedrock. Jeff City's just shallow dirt with rock underneath of it. So when dynamite is blasting on the other side of the hill at the same depth as my basement, who's responsible for that? And again, as she said, when previous blasting has happened, nobody would take responsibility for the leaks that occur in our basements, not even our insurance, because it's not a natural disaster. So it's not covered by my homeowner's insurance if they blast or something like that. So again, when the school expanded for the athletic field, great, appreciate it, we need it for our students. But again, blasting happened. There's no notice to the local neighbors, nothing like that. I had to find the general contractor myself to get information on the blasting. And all he can do is just assure me that it shouldn't affect me. But what if it does? Who's responsible for that? My homeowner's insurance already said they're not going to cover it. So again, when things like this happen, and they want to put what's already only 6 lots in a very small cul-de-sac that was not designed for homes because the development was decided it wasn't going to be continued to be developed. The city only put a minimal cul-de-sac there to start with. So if we go up based off the boundaries that are already in place, there's no room to fit those houses. How's a car supposed to turn around? Are they going to block the dead-end cul-de-sac for 4 years building these homes in front of our houses? You know, I mean, there's plenty of questions as a tax-paying citizen who owns their property would want the common courtesy of your neighbors, of your citizens, you know, of your city, just to be able to answer some questions. And here we are today asking for those answers because this is our first notice of it, other than our personal investigation that our neighbors have done because yellow flags went up in our neighborhood, our very peaceful, quiet neighborhood that previously the school tried to acquire to put a parking lot for an overpopulated school that we already needed a new school for. So this has been the same property. And when that didn't happen, another company bought this, and now here we are today. And that's all I know because we've dug that information. Our neighbors have dug that information. And when stepping out to speak with the gentleman that owns Deal Contracting, or at least whatever the company name, I apologize, he wouldn't even speak with me other than just to get me away from it. He wouldn't give me any real answers, which he doesn't owe me any. He doesn't owe me anything. He owns that property, and I understand that, and I respect that. But again, as a neighbor, if you're coming into our neighborhood to put in 12 homes, that's long term. Again, I've been there 15 years. Common courtesy says that if we're going to be here and we're going to be a neighborhood, come and knock on my door or something. Not me find out because there's cars parked in a cul-de-sac that is historically empty because it's a dead-end road. It's a dead end. The only time that anybody is there is late at night because they're parking and it's legal and they're not harming nobody, whatever. But, I mean, to what extent is there a common courtesy to the neighborhood? And that's my best question for tonight. And again, I'm working on limited information because the only thing we have is what we can dig up from the Secretary of State or the agenda from tonight or the GIS showing that our original plot plans and our plat for that neighborhood. So again, today, I appreciate it. I thank you for your time. That's all I can ask common courtesy. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll have, I'm sure, some of those questions and topics answered when we take up the first reading.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Sure. We also have signed up, now there's a Dorothy James, but I think that is crossed out, correct, Dorothy? And then the next one we have Richard, or no, Dorothy? Okay, welcome.
Good evening. I initially thought I had questions to ask, but from the things I've heard since I've been here.
And Dorothy, I don't mean to interrupt, but if you can speak into the mic, that way people listening online can hear. Thank you.
I thought I had some questions to ask at this meeting, and since I've been here, I've learned that the concerns I have should be taken up with Mr. Zeal of, Tim Joseph, rather, of Zeal Enterprise. And I think it would be a waste of my time to go through all of my concerns. However, to follow up on Ms. Johnson's comment that how we found out about this sale of property, we heard about it Friday, so there was no time for us to make any kind of preparation or express any concerns to anyone. But this is just par for the course for over here on Roland Street. I am a resident of Roland Street. Initially, there was a sale that, and I have nothing against Habitat at all. I'm empathetic, sympathetic to whatever causes they have. But there was planned to build Habitat houses. And I happened to be up here at the courthouse, and I mentioned it to someone, and they advised me to come over here to get some advice about the property. And Habitat was getting ready to do a final sale. So we asked for a meeting, and we did get a meeting, and it came to an understanding of that it wasn't in their best interest to build on this property. So then the school board, we found out the same way a couple of days before that their intentions were to buy the property. And of course, they decided it was too expensive. They would rather build another school. So with us just hearing a couple of days before about the sale of the lots, it's not unusual. So it tends to make us have other thoughts about how this property is being listed or shared or whatever. We don't get information about it or the interest parties, or nor are we able to share any of our concerns. So I've been told to talk with the builder, to try and get a meeting with the builder, rather, to express my concerns, and I will do that. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. We also have Richard Johns signed up. Okay. All right, thank you. And that is all that we have signed up. I don't believe we've missed anyone, but is there anyone else that we missed? Okay. So we will go on to item 11, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve A through H, but pulling off item E? Is there a motion? Yes.
I'm just gonna hold off on that. I'll talk to staff about it. We can do the whole agenda.
Okay, all right, so A through H entirely. We have a motion, Councilman Spicer.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 12, bills introduced, 22-100.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a $1,244,046 design-build agreement with Burns & McDonnell Engineering Company for the biosolids improvement project.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. As clerk indicated, this is a design build contract with Burns McDonnell, engineering consultant. Costs a little over 1.2 million, 44,000. The total cost of the overall project is north of 10 million. That was our original estimate before the cost accelerations we've experienced lately. But this was one of the main projects that we talked about during our bond discussion and our rate discussion with wastewater. We anticipate this being funded through a bond, probably through the state revolving loan fund. Basically, it will construct a new biosolids centrifuge. Now we use a press now, but the equipment's about 25 years old, so it's time to replace that. Again, this is essentially the design part, starting that out, and be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, 22-101.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Infinitec in the amount of $213,147.32 for the storage area network replacement project.
Mrs. Perry?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This bill would approve the use of a cooperative agreement for a contract with Infinitec to replace the storage area network, or SAN. During the FY23 budget meetings, funds were approved to replace the SAN from the sales tax G gleaning funds. Once this SAN is purchased, we'll also be purchasing a host, and that will satisfy the requests that I made during the budget meetings. And as a side note, because we received better pricing on this cooperative agreement than previously quoted, we believe that we'll also have enough funding for the council chamber's audio-video revamp that had previously been presented to council. That project is out for bid right now and will close on Thursday of this week, and we hope to have a staff recommendation for the council chamber project on the next council agenda. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councilman Spencer?
It's somewhat related to what you mentioned about the council chambers issue that we've been having. Is there a way to also add into our use of iPads to be able to get the overhead information for, like, when planning and public works put things on the overheads? It's so hard for us to see a lot of that detailed information. If there's a way we could see it on the iPad, that would be great. I don't know if that's possible.
Probably a conversation we need to have internally. Those packets are typically, for example, the Finance Committee packet. When I post that, I actually post it to our Laserfish files, and then I give you guys access to it. I don't know that they do that for all of the other committee meetings. That is something that we could talk about.
Just
I will note, we've had different consultants look at that. If you're talking about whatever's shown up here to be able to, yeah, we've had several. We can try again, but I don't know if some of that, if the new equipment will help in that process, but I've had that same interest.
Okay. So, Councilman, are you actually speaking of when they project it on the screen, you'd like to see it on your iPad?
Correct.
Okay, I will definitely have to do some research on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, 22-102.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a $325,918 agreement with Don Schneiders Excavating Company for the Westview Force Main Replacement Project.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. The clerk indicated it pretty well, but a construction contract. It's in Westview Heights area, $325,000 to replace an older force main that's failed a few times. This is part of the wastewater fund, and this would be paid out of, would not be bonded. It'd be paid out of our cash on hand.
Any questions? 22-103.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, changing, amending, and modifying the zoning map of the zoning code of the City of Jefferson by rezoning 3 acres of land addressed as 1110 Cedar City Drive from M1 Light Industrial to PUD Planned Unit Development and approving a preliminary PUD plan.
Mr. Barron?
Can we get the presentation up on the screen?
Excellent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This bill pertains to property located at the corner of Cedar City Drive and Oil Well Road. Up on the screen, there's a larger piece of property highlighted in blue. It's a large farm. This bill pertains to just the corner of the property, approximately 3 acres, again, located right there at the corner of Oil Well and Cedar City Drive. The bill would rezone the property and approve a preliminary PUD plan for a retail farm-to-market type store, so a general retail type store. This is an aerial photo of the property. You can see some grading activity taking place on the property. The air photo is a little dated, but there has been more grading activity as the property owner is seeking to elevate the site in order to comply with floodplain regulations, build the building at the proper elevation. And the preliminary PUD plan that would be approved by this bill is shown up on the screen. It shows a retail building oriented toward the corner, and so the orientation there is with Cedar City Drive on the left and Oil Well Road there at the bottom. It would have a gravel parking lot that would be accessed via 2 driveways, one off of each road. The driveways would be paved, but it's noteworthy that the gravel would be a deviation from normal zoning requirements for paved parking. There'd be a number of accessory buildings associated with the site that would probably come over time, including things like a greenhouse, extra storage building, and a covered loading area. And the building size is about 2,800 square feet, and the design of the building would resemble a rustic barn. Again, this is proposed by the Fisher family as an effort to do a retail farm-to-market style operation. Planning and Zoning Commission heard this request at their January 12th meeting and recommended approval on a vote of 7-0, and a public hearing is scheduled for the February 20th council meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. 22-104.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, changing, amending, and modifying the zoning map of the zoning code of the City of Jefferson by rezoning 9.09 acres of land located in the 2200 block of St. Mary's Boulevard from C2 General Commercial to RA2 High Density Residential.
Mr. Barron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And so up on the screen is the property highlighted in blue. Toward the bottom of the screen, you'll see Missouri Boulevard. And the road's snaking through the middle of the screen. It's unlabeled, but it's St. Mary's Boulevard. So the property is located just east of the Budweiser distributor on St. Mary's Boulevard. It's 9 acres, and the bill would rezone the property from its current C2 general commercial designation to an RA2 multifamily residential designation, essentially matching the property just to the east of it, which is zoned RA2. This is an aerial photo of the property, essentially undeveloped. There is a parking lot that serves office buildings on the opposite side of St. Mary's Boulevard. There you can see adjacent to St. Mary's. Those office buildings are currently vacant. There are a number of multifamily residential uses there to the east, including several 4-unit and 6-unit buildings. And the purpose of the request is to pursue a duplex-style residential development on the property. And a preliminary subdivision plat showing the duplex development was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission and approved as part of this request. So this rezoning would then clear the way for a future final subdivision plat that would go through the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council prior to approval. But up on the screen is what it is envisioned as the duplex type development, showing 25 duplex lots for a total of 50 units. This item was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their January 12th meeting. They did recommend approval to the City Council on a vote of 7-0, and a public hearing is scheduled for February 20th. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. 22-105.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri approving a PUD plan amendment for property located at 311 Bolivar Street.
Mr. Barron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This property is located at the corner of Bolivar Street and McCarty Street. The northeast corner is currently zoned PUD, planned unit development. The property was developed with a retail coffee shop and roastery, along with Airbnb unit in the upper level. And so the air photo shown up on the screen is about a year old and captured the building during construction. The property was developed in accordance with a final PUD plan, and that plan is shown up on the screen. Shows the building, a larger parking lot accessed via Bolivar Street, and then a smaller parking lot accessed via the alley to the north of property, containing 4 parking spaces accessed via essentially a driveway connection. The proposed amendment, which is shown up on the screen, would change the alley side parking to a total of 8 head-in parking spaces accessed directly from the alley. And so this is a screen showing the changes, the proposed changes for this minor PUD, or for this, I'm sorry, this PUD plan amendment that this bill would approve. On the left-hand side of the screen is the 4 existing spaces per the final PUD plan that was approved, and then on the right-hand side is the proposed amendment. And then I do also have a photo of the back of the property. And so the parking spaces, going back to the screen, include a small island, concrete curbed island located there on the side of the parking area closest to Bolivar Street, and then just a striped out area accommodating a handicap parking spot for the side further away. And so you can see that in the screen there with the concrete island. And so the basis of the staff recommendation on this matter is fire department concerns about the impact on emergency services. And I'd rely on the fire department to represent those concerns. This matter was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their January 12th meeting. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 3-4, and so it is a negative recommendation that is forwarded to the City Council by the Planning and Zoning Commission. It is scheduled for a public hearing at the February 20th City Council meeting, and I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? All right. Item G, 22106.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, accepting and approving the final subdivision plat of TC 3C subdivision, a subdivision of the City of Jefferson, Missouri.
Mr. Barron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And so first, to orient you to the location of the property, the property is highlighted up there on the screen in blue. Toward the bottom right-hand corner of the screen is Jeff City High School. And so Marshall Street, which is a short cul-de-sac in this location, is shown there on the screen, and then also Roland. And so you can see the highlighted blue property consists of 6 single-family residential lots there on Marshall Street, and then also a couple fronting on Roland Street. So the property is an RS4, a single-family residential zoning district. And so this bill would replat those 6 lots into a total of 10 single-family lots. And so this is an aerial photo, but then the subdivision plat, which is shown here, shows how those 10 lots would be arranged, with 7 of the lots shown off of the cul-de-sac, and then 3 lots fronting on Roland. All of the lots meet the requirement, the lot width and lot size requirements of the RS4 zoning district. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did hear this matter at their January 12th meeting, and recommended approval on a vote of 7-0. I can try to answer some of the questions that were expressed during the public comment. First, regarding the notification for this type of proposal for subdivision plats, there's no rezoning that's being requested with this proposal. It's just essentially a replat of 6 lots into 10. And so there's no notification or requirements required either by state law or by the city code for a subdivision plat. The type of housing that's proposed, it is single family. Whether it would be rented or owned, I would have to defer to the developer. At the staff level, we don't distinguish between rental and owner occupied. Either of them would be permitted by the city code. And outside of that, regarding the cul-de-sac size, there's no, the cul-de-sac is existing. There's no proposal to amend it or change it in any way, and so the development would be relying on the existing street. And with that, I think I answered most of the questions that were expressed. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that the council may have on this matter.
And I know there was also the blasting question and concern.
Regarding the blasting, I'd have to defer to the fire department on blasting regulations. I'm not an expert on those matters. I believe it's the fire department that regulates blasting and responds to such things.
Okay, Councilman Hensley?
Thank you. I just have a few questions. Do we have renderings of how the proposed houses would look? Because they would be, I mean, the lots themselves are 5,000 square feet or something, so. I'm just wondering if we have images of what the proposed houses would look like.
So we do not, as part of this proposal. I'd have to rely on the developer to see what they envision there.
And then this entire blue outlined area is less than 1.9 acres, is that right? Okay, so putting 10 single-family houses on less than 2 acres seems like a lot, but are there other parts of this area that would have frontages as narrow as the ones being proposed, which is, I believe, 60 feet?
And so the RS4 zoning district does permit lot frontages of 50 feet.
I think it permits width of 50
I'm
feet,
sorry,
but the documents said frontages of 60. So I don't know where you measure width if it's not at your frontage.
So the lot width of 50 feet for the RS4 district is measured at the setback line. And so there are cases where lots, especially in cul-de-sacs and similar curves and such, where the actual frontage can be slightly less than the lot width, but the zoning code measures and defines the lot width to be measured at the front setback line, which is 25 feet back from the front property line.
Okay. This company do they own these lots now?
Yes, they are the property owner.
Okay. Do we have any idea if they have any experience in this type of business? I looked them up. I mean, both LLCs were created a couple months ago, right? And I'm not seeing a whole lot about them other than they're out of Columbia. Do we have any idea if they have any background in this?
I'm not well versed. I'd rely on the developer property owner to represent their credentials.
Okay, and do we know if they have any plan to talk to the neighbors here? Because, I mean, I've heard from a fair number of folks in the last 24 hours who were heretofore unaware of what was going on. So I think it might be a good idea if they want to have any chance of cooling temperatures in the neighborhood to maybe reach out. But that's just my suggestion. I mean, is there any reason other than maximizing returns here for squeezing almost twice as many houses onto these lots as we currently have them set for, that we know of? I mean, they're set for 6 houses and we want to put 10 on there. I mean, and it'd be 7 up top and 3 on the hill, right?
Yeah, again, I'd probably defer to the developer on what they envision for this particular development.
Okay, then I'll ask, have any representations been made to staff about any of these questions that we're deferring to them on right now?
So we did meet with the developer and their consultant. Consultant is Central Missouri Professional Services, regarding this proposal, as we often do with developers prior to meetings. Yeah. So yes, I believe they have a certain vision for housing at this property. I don't believe it's I believe that the vision that they have is for well-designed single-family buildings that are in a compact configuration. I'm a little reluctant that the proposal that is before you for a subdivision plat, there are no design regulations that are associated with that. They're not requesting a rezoning. They're not requesting a PUD plan or anything of that regard that would allow or that would put in place any kind of design restrictions for this property.
Yeah, I don't have any heartburn, frankly, about someone wanting to put 6 houses on these 6 lots. That's not my concern. I think it is splitting hairs a little bit, probably to the frustration of neighbors, to say that trying to cram almost twice as many houses onto this lot as onto this this area as they're currently allowed is not requiring a change in anything. Obviously it is, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about it right now. So these are just answers that would probably be good to have before our next meeting. Certainly information that the owner who's wanting to get this done should probably share with their new neighbors. Thank you.
So, Councilman Spencer?
So, when the original cul-de-sac was designed, was that based on the original lots that were platted? Does that make sense?
Well, and so I believe it's a public works question, like what is the required size for a cul-de-sac based on the number of lots? I'd probably have to defer to them. I'm not aware of it being substandard, but it's existing and in place, and so, but we can certainly look into that and provide a better answer at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Matt, do you understand what my question?
Yeah, I think so. Basically, the cul-de-sac has to be designed so you can get something turned around in it. And with existing residential traffic, it's existing in place and it's designed for residential homes at the time, so it meant whatever code it was at the time. I didn't check to see if it meets our current code. I believe it does, but I can check into that further. But the lot size is based on that frontage size, as Eric pointed out, and so that's how it's kind of looked at.
Madam Mayor?
Councilman Deacon?
For a little historical background, prior to 1965, people of color were not allowed, or the banks wouldn't give them any kind of loan to buy new housing, build new housing. This area, I can't remember, I know Mr. Halsey will tell you the whole history. With Franklin, Roland, Lafayette, a number of the lending institutions, somehow the people of color were able to get loans for new houses. This is the only place in Jefferson City they are allowed to build new houses. So actually, this is our historical black neighborhood. And I have a little concern with all of a sudden squeezing a bunch of little houses all the way in there. And like the lady implied, no one actually came out. She said, well, this is par. Yes, this is par of the way certain segments of our population have been treated for a long time. And I think they deserve the respect to find out what's going on in their neighborhood, but more importantly, that it fits well with the neighborhood that they fought like crazy to live in. And this is where they are now, and they have done a really nice job. It's a beautiful area, and I just don't think they're treated well under the circumstances of how this all came about.
Thank you. Any other comments? And Councilman Schreiber.
I got several calls Sunday regarding the same issues, and I went over and looked at it today. And of course, the whole thing is a very substantial hillside, and I really have a concern about getting 10 structures on that property, and I think that we do need to get some additional answers in order for this project to move forward. You know, it's true, it is open space, but it's a very significant incline. It actually make a good ski hill, actually, part of it. But I do have a concern there, and it is staked out, so it's ready to go. So that's my concern.
Thank you. And it's always helpful for the developer to be at the first reading to hear things like this. So perhaps, I know that Councilman Hensley had a few specific things to relay back to the developer. So would you be able to guide him to this testimony where he could watch the meeting and let him know that perhaps he should, while it's not required and there's nothing that would require him to do so, that he may be inclined to want to reach out to perhaps to the neighborhood?
Yes, I'll definitely be in contact with the developer to relay these concerns and questions.
Okay, and the other piece about the layout and the other questions that I know Councilman Hensley and others had mentioned. Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Okay, thank you. Item 13, bills pending, 2294.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 19, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Schedule O, Parking Time Limit Zones to match existing conditions on East High Street and Lafayette Street.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. As clerk indicated, this is a cleanup deal to match existing time limits that are in the field. So as we looked at the code for another item here, the next item found some discrepancies, and this would clean that up. High and Lafayette area.
Any questions or deliberation? Roll call, please.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer, Ward, Wiseman, Deacon, Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2295.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 19, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Schedule O, Parking Time Limit Zones by the modification of the 600 block of East High Street from 2 hour to 4 hour.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. As clerk indicated, this would modify the time limit 2 to 4 hours. It was brought forward by a property owner in the area to allow their customers more time to dwell on that block. And the adjoining property owners were notified and went through transportation and traffic and recommended for approval.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion? Roll call, please.
Lester,
Aye.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer, Ward, Wiseman, Deacon,
Aye.
Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley,
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2296.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 19, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Schedule O, Parking Time Limit Zones by deletions next to 1001 West McCarty Street.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. We also found an issue here, and it's in the 1000 block of McCarty, where there was a business that had requested some time limits to help with their customer turnover in front of their shop, and that is no longer, there's no longer a business there, and we're notified of the adjacent residents of the issue, and no one had any issue with it, and it also went through transportation and traffic to remove the time limit.
Any questions, discussion? Roll call, please.
Schreiber, Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer, Ward, Wiseman, Deacon, Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley,
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2297.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Automotive Technology in the amount of $69,950 for the demolition of the old bus lift and installation of a new bus lift.
Mr. Marash?
Thank you. As clerk indicated, construction contract for just under $70,000. 80% of that is paid by grant, so that would be approximately $56,000. And then the transit matching fund in the CIP would pay for the additional $14,000. So this would replace a failing lift in our central maintenance shop, and it's to work on larger vehicles like buses, but it is being run through a transit grant. We also work on things like fire trucks and larger trucks on it as well.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer, Ward, Wiseman, Deacon, Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley,
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester, Schreiber.
Bill passes. 2298.
An ordinance amending and enacting regulation regarding marijuana.
Mr. Molman?
Thank you. This bill would change two provisions of the City Code, Chapter 17 and Chapter 18 of the City Code, respectively. The changes to Chapter 17 generally refer to personal use and possession of marijuana, and the changes to Chapter 18 are related to essentially business-related regulations that would be tied to the business license of marijuana-type businesses. Generally, these regulations are largely informed by the state constitution. The state constitution in the area of marijuana, both medical and adult use marijuana, carves out some pretty narrow lanes for the local governments to occupy. This bill intends to occupy those lanes kind of in the fullest extent allowed under the Constitution. So I'd be happy to dive into any specifics or answer any questions. So that's a fairly broad overview, but I'd be happy to drill down if the council would like.
Thank you. Councilman Lester?
So, yeah, I'll just, I wanted to propose some change in language to part of this and eliminate some language. I'll preface it by saying that I just don't agree to have or put in place law or regulations in which you know a significant portion of the population is not going to obey. And when that happens, then you're going to have little enforcement or what might even be worse is selective enforcement. So I think there's some areas of this where it is that type of language, and I think when you do that, pass that, and have that type of law or regulation, you just generate disrespect for the law. So anyway, on I know in your package it's page 494. I guess it's section 18-285, item I, which says, and most of what's in there I agree with, except for one portion. It says, it shall be unlawful to possess or consume marijuana or possess marijuana on the grounds of a public or private preschool, elementary, or secondary school, institution of higher education, in a school bus, or on the grounds of any correctional facility. So I agree with all of that except with respect to institution of higher education. I don't think the use of marijuana has changed much probably since I was in school in the 60s and 70s. And so I think the language probably ought to be changed such that taking out where it says institution of higher education and then put that at the end and say, or in public areas of an institution of higher education. I think certainly in the public areas is more appropriate and maybe enforceable, but having that just generally in the whole institution of higher education is just not going to be adhered to. So that's one place I would change. And then item L, I would say to just strike that entirely. It's talking about marijuana in non-public, in residences, non-public places. I think it's not necessary because you already deal with it in terms of a public nuisance for the same thing that's being addressed there under public nuisance. Anyway, I would propose that it be amended in those two aspects. Item I, to change the language related to institutions of higher education, and to basically eliminate L, which is not needed, and again, I don't think going to be adhered to because it's private residences and non-public places.
Any response to that, Mr. Molman?
These are policy questions that are, to the discretion of the city council. As to institutions of higher education, obviously the main example here in Jefferson City is Lincoln University, and as a state organization, our ability to effectuate what happens on Lincoln's campus is somewhat limited, and whether or not marijuana use on the higher education grounds is better left to the leaders of Lincoln University, I think is a valid policy consideration. Like I said, this language comes directly from the Amendment 3. So that is the origin of the language, but if the city council wanted to modify that, it is within its discretion to do so. There's nothing that compels the city council to adopt this particular language. I might have to defer to Chief Wilde as to whether or not this type of regulation would assist if requested by Lincoln University and their police department. If they put in a regulation that would prohibit, I'm not sure of that kind of extra jurisdictional cooperation that would be assistive. That would be my only caveat to that statement. On the once again with L, I think probably two different sentences here that may have actually even been better to break up in hindsight. But really, the first one I tend to agree with Councilman Lester that the first sentence that deals with odor, smoke odor, leaving a residence or non-public place is attempted to be dealt with in the next section, public nuisances. And so it's a little bit of a belt and a suspenders approach here, but could you rely on one provision to kind of do both the work? Probably. On the multifamily residence or similar dwelling, marijuana may not be administered in any common area. I will say, just in my own experience, with the institution of medical marijuana, the one consistent complaint that I got was, I live in an apartment, my neighbor is smoking marijuana, cops, please come arrest this person, which we obviously couldn't do. But in a situation where it is a semi-public, semi-private place, like a common area within a multifamily situation, I could see a regulation that is effectively enforced could help in that situation. But also enforcement would be pretty tough. Once again, I have to defer to Chief Wilde on the challenges that would go with that. And so just kind of giving the council the benefit of my experience, it's the complaints about marijuana that have been forwarded to my level, at least, have been centered on the multifamily setting. So, but once again, like I said, nothing compels the city council to adopt this language. This is all discretionary language, and so be happy to craft new language or look at any alternatives or whatever the city council wants to do here. So like I said, this language mostly is pulled from the state constitution, and so kind of given the direction of the Public Safety Committee a few months ago, we are occupying the full lane of regulatory authority that Amendment 3 gave us, and so this is a reflection of that approach. So stand ready for questions or instruction.
And you directed one question to Chief Wilde, so I don't know if Chief Wilde is prepared to answer that or needs to give us some feedback.
Well, in response to our coordination, cooperation, I guess, with Lincoln University, they do have their own police agency on their campus, and with the exception of them requesting our assistance for an investigation, we wouldn't be enforcing those laws on their property anyway. However, I can't predict what some of the satellite locations for, say, I don't know, Columbia College that might be in town. I can't speak to what their desire would be. Worst case scenario is if someone were smoking marijuana in one of their classes and they wanted them ousted out, I think you could still cover that under the public use portion of this. I don't know that it would have to necessarily be specific to a location of higher education.
Sorry. And also, smoking indoors is still covered by our indoor clean indoor air ordinance, which is originally designed for tobacco smoke, but would cover marijuana or any other type of substance that you light and inhale. So
that's where I would see our biggest challenge is if, say, Columbia College, people are in the parking lot on their property and they want something done about it. If that terminology isn't in there, then it would probably be handled under a public consumption approach to that.
Councilman Spencer?
Just for clarification, though, with marijuana, you don't necessarily have the smoke byproduct. you have the smell from it. So does that, what you inferred about the clean air for smoking tobacco use, is that gonna cover us?
No, so the clean indoor air ordinance would only apply to the act of smoking or vaping in public spaces. Someone comes in, they just stink. That's not going to cover it.
So I just wanted to point out that item I is not just about consuming this, even if it's unlawful to possess marijuana on those grounds, which is really broad.
Councilman Fitzwater?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind the committee also that or the council, even though this initiative did pass statewide, it failed in Cole County, so I don't have any problem taking the full extent of the recommended language, so I would speak in opposition to making changes, especially when we don't know what the consequences would be. So, I mean, a lot of people spent a lot of time on this language, and I don't have any problem with the language as drafted.
Councilwoman Wiseman?
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but are there any colleges in town that are not federally funded? Because all of a sudden we're starting to talk about the feds, and if it's a federally funded institution, our rules don't apply. It's still a federal crime.
I don't think, no, I wouldn't even hazard a guess.
Further questions? So are the two changes in the form of a motion? Do you want to take them up individually or separately? Councilman Spencer?
Just for clarification, I wasn't at that last public safety meeting when a lot of this was discussed, but that was the direction I think Public Safety Committee gave staff, and you were just following that direction, and I appreciate your work here and the product that you provided to us tonight. And I agree with Councilman Fitzwater. I think it's better to be probably a little bit more broad than would be to kind of maybe narrow it down myself. So I will not be in support of changing any of these provisions at all. Thank you.
Councilman Schreiber?
I'm in favor of following the initial language as it's written. I would rather not deviate from that language.
Further discussion? Any motions to amend? Councilman Lester?
So I would make my motion to amend I to change the language such that institution of higher education not be in its current position, but at the end and saying or in public areas of institution of higher education. And item L, I would, as my motion, to strike the first sentence of that portion and leave the second one about multifamily in place.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Okay, we do not have a second. Any other discussion on the bill? The current bill we have on the table, which is 2298 in its current form. Okay, roll call, please.
Spicer? Ward?
Well, I want to make sure we're clear. We're not voting on, there was no amendment. So it's the current bill. Okay, I know that's kind of what you indicated, so I wanted to make sure that everybody's clear. So there was only a motion on there was not a second for the amendment. So we'll just take up 2298 as originally proposed. Okay, so roll call.
Spicer? Ward?
Aye.
Wiseman?
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye.
Bill passes, and no problem. It is a little complex, and thank you, Councilman Lester and all of council for their thoughts and feedback on that. It kind of shows that state statute is written sort of, anyway, I won't get into that. So, but I know you have your hands full of the interpretation and working through all of that. So appreciate everybody's thoughtful discussion on that. 2299.
An ordinance approving a plan for an industrial development project for Scholastic Incorporated, authorizing the city of Jefferson, Missouri to issue its taxable industrial development revenue bonds, Series 2023, in a principal amount not to exceed $44,700,000 to finance the cost of such project, authorizing and approving certain documents and authorizing certain other actions in connection with the issuance of the bonds.
Mr. Molman.
Thank you. This bill would approve a plan for industrial development project for Scholastic Incorporated, and in conjunction with that, approve issuance of $44,700,000 in taxable industrial development bonds under Chapter 100 of the Missouri statutes. The effect of those bonds would be to provide tax abatement on personal property, about $44 million worth of personal property, 50% tax abatement over 10 years, and the personal property would come online over the course of 3 years. So essentially purchases over 3 years, and those purchases would each last 10 years in duration for the tax abatement. And so the net effect is essentially 12 years of tax abatement, but kind of on separate pieces of property as they come online at the facility. The City Council previously approved a resolution of an intent on October 17th, 2022, giving some initial support for this project. However, that support was in an amount closer to $30 million in the ensuing time. Scholastic has decided to increase their investment here in Jefferson City, and so that's why that number is higher than what the City Council may recall seeing back in October. I believe we have representatives from Scholastic here tonight, along with Luke Holtschneider from Jefferson City Regional Economic Partnership, and Mr. Hayden Crumpton from Gilmore Bell, who served as bond counsel on this transaction. So I would be happy to take any questions and direct them to the experts in this matter. But with that, I will conclude and open up for any questions.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you all for being here. We appreciate it tonight and staying through our meeting in case we have questions. Any questions from council or discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
And bill passes. And once again, we thank you all for your time in being here. I know that in past meetings, there's been a lot of discussion about the benefit to Scholastic in our community, and we are very appreciative for this economic growth that you bring. So thank you again. Item 14, informal calendar, Bill 2290, Councilwoman Wiseman.
I'd like to go ahead and pull that off the informal calendar.
Okay, and there's been a request to pull it off, so Mrs. Strope.
Thank you. This ordinance amends the residency requirements for the.
Sorry,
read
I
the
need to
bill
read, we'll
first?
read it,
Go
thank
ahead.
you.
Okay.
An ordinance amending Chapter 16, Article 3, Section 16-31 of the City Code related to the Commission on Human Relations, structure of commission, quorum, compensation.
Mrs. Strope.
Thank you. So this ordinance amends the residency requirements for members of the Human Relations Commission by allowing up to 2 members to be non-residents of the city of Jefferson City.
All right, any discussion, deliberation? Roll call, or I saw maybe Councilman Lester and then Fitzwater.
So I think this, I'm fine with this. I think sometimes it's difficult to get the type of or commitment of people to serve on these commissions. I know when I was on the environmental quality, there were times, quite a few times, we couldn't have a quorum. And some of the most important things is people with knowledge in the area and commitment to serve. And as long as, 2 out of 9, to me, as long as you never have it's such that when you just meet quorum, that it's possible that you have a majority, even in that situation of non-residents, which you wouldn't have in this case, you'd be fine. So to me, it is okay to have situations like this, and we still have plenty of checks on this, both from the committee standpoint from the council, and then the council itself in terms of approving of these appointments.
Thank you. Councilman Fitzwater?
Yeah, I raised objections to this when it first came to the admin committee. I think I talked about it at the last council meeting where we discussed it. I still have concerns about allowing individuals that are not registered voters, citizens of our community, making policy. And I understand maybe there's a differentiation between, for lack of a better term, enterprise type activities. And I know, we look to our CVB and maybe some of our other commissions, but I just feel like people ought to be residents here if they're making policy that the rest of us have to comply with. And I've been lobbied since we had the vote saying that I was not looking at this, and it's not a flippant response to it, but I just think it sends a wrong message if we're saying we can't get quorums, or for whatever reason, I know we've used different reasons, that we have to go outside the city. And this is a dynamic city. We're trying to build it. We're trying to attract people here, and I just think it sends the wrong message. I'm going to vote in opposition to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilman Deacon and then Spencer.
I'm in full agreement with Councilman Fitzwater. If we were a town of 10,000 people or less and we needed people to serve on the, I could understand it, but we're a town of 40,000 plus. If you want to serve on our commissions, come and live in our town. We can find a place for you. Councilman Fitzwater said it best. If you don't want to live here, then, well, you don't get to have some of the spoils of living in the city. Thank you.
Councilman Spencer.
I just think it's bad policy. I think, if it's an issue of quorum, like the Environmental Quality Commission that you raised, Councilman Lester, they lowered the number of people serving on it. It's not from a lack of willing applicants inside the city limits that are willing to serve. I seek input from my constituents, and this was overwhelmingly not supportive. They feel that to serve on citizens' boards and commissions, it should be a requirement for to be a city resident. So, again, I think it's just bad policy, and I will be voting in opposition of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments?
So I'll just point out that when we did the construction codes, Chris Yarnell chaired that. He lives outside the committee, outside the city. I think most everybody who served on those, and those were really long and a lot of discussions, a lot of time devoted to it, and most of the people I think were from outside the city. But anyway, you do have people who live on the outskirts, the very outskirts of the city, who are very passionate about the city and want to see it thrive. And certainly we don't want to, I don't think we want to deny those people to serve, because that's what it is, to serve, to help the city.
Thank you. And it's, let's see,
Scott was-
Spencer and
Councilman Spencer
then
was first.
Dave Kimna. Okay.
And in response to that, Councilman Lester, though there is a difference, I think, when we're talking about a professional board. I think it's imperative that we seek competent, professional experts in those related areas, whether it be electrical board, plumbing board, or code review. There is a difference when it's a citizens commission and committee. And I think that, in the spirit of the name, sends the message that it should be residents of the city of Jefferson. So,
Councilman Kimna?
I know this was discussed before, but remind me again of any of the other commissions that allows for more than one position that's non-city resident.
Mrs.
There
Trope likely
are a
has
couple
those.
of them, I
Correct.
believe.
Cultural Arts Commission, for example, allows up to 2 to serve. Do you have that
Yeah,
handy?
I can read through it if you'd like. Airport Advisory, 7 members can be, I'll give the number. This is the number that can be non-residents. Animal Shelter, 3, Cultural Arts Commission, 7, CVB, 9, Electrical Exam, 5, Environmental Quality Commission, 7, Human Relations Commission. This isn't right.
No,
I think you're talking about the ones that you have it
sorry.
backward, that you're,
Yeah, let me start over. I'm sorry. Airport Advisory, 3. I apologize. I was reading the total members.
Okay.
Animal Shelter, 3, Cultural Arts Commission, 2, CVB, 9, Electrical Exam, 5, Environmental Quality Commission, 2, Human Relations Commission, 1, Plumbing Exam, 5, and the USS Jefferson City, 8. So there's a total number of positions for non-residents out of those 9 boards of 38 positions that are possible. And of that, we currently have 20 serving.
any other questions? Councilman Hensley?
Thanks. And just to reiterate something that was mentioned at a prior meeting, the Human Relations Commission, much like I think probably every commission that you just mentioned, doesn't actually make any decisions for the city. They don't set any policies. They're advisory groups that the most that they can do is make suggestions to us. So, yeah, I mean, Councilman Fitzwater mentioned it early in his comments, but yeah, I mean, there is just a very clear, solid difference between those types of advisory commissions and, as he described them, the enterprise bodies. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Fitzwater?
Doesn't that body, though, help fill out the survey or application that the city submits to the federal government?
There is the annual Commission on Human Rights, the Municipal Quality Index, thank you, the MCI index. It's not a required thing, it's just something that our Human Relations Commission assists in completing every year.
But that would represent, people perceive it as that's how the people in Jefferson City feel on those topics.
Perhaps, yeah, it could be. I know it is something that it's
our index, it represents
municipal.
Jefferson City.
Yeah, the Municipal Equality Index, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it is something that the staff ultimately submits it, but we get input from Human Relations Commission. So they advise, they don't ultimately fill it out, correct?
I don't think this group fills that out.
But they advise. Is that a correct way to perceive that?
And everything in there really is factual kind of information. It isn't like feelings or likes or desires or anything like that. It's more factual. Do you have a policy that says this? Do you have a policy that says that? Those kinds of things. Numbers of LGBTQ representatives in
Health
elected
insurance.
positions. Does our health insurance allow benefits for LGBTQ, things like that. So there isn't any kind of opinion kind of thing on there.
There's actually a question on there if we even have a Human Relations Commission. So we used to score lower because we didn't.
Yeah, our scores have continued to improve. Thank you. Well, I would support this bill. The Commission on Human Relations just in itself welcomes diversity and being welcome into our community. So I think this is a great example of a commission that could benefit. It's not strictly a quorum. That's the reason, is that it will bring that welcoming background to our city. So anything further? Okay, roll call, please.
Wiseman,
Aye.
Deacon,
No.
Fitzwater,
No.
Hensley,
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Schreiber,
No.
Spencer,
No.
Spicer,
No.
Ward,
Aye.
5-5. And I'll vote yes. So I'll get to break that tie. Of course. Right. That's what I heard over there. Thank you, Councilman Spencer. Of course. You're correct with that, of course. Okay, with that, the bill passes, and now we're on to resolutions 2242.
A resolution of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending and adopting the Citizen Participation Plan for U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Programs.
Mr. Sanders, who will turn it over to Ms. Sinzi.
Thank you. I guess we are going to do a presentation. The Housing and Urban Development HUD has a requirement through their Community Development Block Grant Program that entitlement communities put out their Citizen Participation Plan. The requirement of the plan is essentially to give your public entities knowledge and understanding of how the Community Development Block Grant programs work. So we go through, talk about the different steps and publishing the plans, notice of the plans, and also how you can participate and how those funds get spent. We recently, we had the most recent version of the Citizen Participation Plan was from 2017. We did do a few amendments in 2021 to accommodate CARES Act waivers. So we are eliminating in this most recent plan, we are actually eliminating some of the CARES Act waivers that are no longer active for our purposes, and incorporating back into the plan of a 15-day public comment period. We're also bringing non-English speaking representation into the plan. So we've been working with El Puente Ministries to be able to make sure that we're accommodating our Spanish speaking population. We did host a public hearing to obtain the views of citizens on housing, public service, and other proposed activities that are eligible within the Community Development Block Grant Program. We also do that the same thing with the annual action plan and our 5-year consolidated plan, which we are currently in our plan year. So this is the year that we are actually selecting where that funding goes for the next 5 years. So we wanted to make sure that this plan was updated so people understood how to participate in the process. These are more of the requirements. So each time we go through a com plan, we have to have a 30-day public comment period. Where we're at in that process is we've done a community survey for unmet needs. We will look at those survey results, and the next step is actually to hold a public meeting regarding those survey results. And then based off of those two activities, we'll start building our consolidated plan and putting it out to public comment. One of the other requirements is affirmatively furthering fair housing. This is something that we're also simultaneously doing. That was also approved in the consent agenda tonight. We're entering into a contract with RKG to conduct our analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. It'll take a deeper dive into our state laws and local ordinances to make sure that we're not directly or indirectly providing exclusionary practices in regards to housing. So we went through this process and we had a public comment period open. Comments were accepted through January 9th. We did not receive any. We also presented this at Public Works and Planning on January 12th. And here we are tonight at City Council for adoption of the amendment to adopt a current citizen participation plan. I know it was a lot, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any further discussion? Thank you for that presentation, Ms. Senzi. Roll call, please.
Deacon,
Aye.
Fitzwater,
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Item 16, presentations from the gallery on other topics. We don't have anyone signed up, but is there anyone here that I missed this evening that would like to present? And anyone online? Okay, item 17, any council and staff discussion of presentation topics. Item 18, any new business. 19, approval of the January 17th, 23 closed session minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Schreiber. Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Bill passes, or motion passes. Item 8, pursuant to Section 610.021 of the revised statutes of Missouri, the chair will entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss the following: attorney-client privilege, Section 610.0211, real estate, Section 610.0212. We've taken up 3, so I don't need to read that one again, correct? Item 4, sealed proposals and negotiated contracts, Section 610.02112.
I move to go into closed session.
Second.
Any further discussion? Councilman Spencer? Sorry.
Before we go into closed session, could we have a brief recess before we enter in?
Yes, we'll do a 5-minute break after we do our roll call. Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute break and then we will reconvene back here in this room in 5 minutes. So, roll call, please.
Hensley.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Schreiber. Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Okay, bill passes, so we'll reconvene back here